All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to what used to be Couch Talk. This is Eddie, as you well know. I've decided to rebrand the channel, take on a co-host. This is my good friend, Christian Martin, and is a friend of mine. I've known him for a very long time. He used to be my roommate, and he has a lot of similar philosophies, a lot of similar political views to myself. So the new name of the channel is going to be Common Mansplaining. And for those of you who are just tuning in, who have never seen the show before, my philosophy is very, I'm mostly focused on trying to bring the country, America, that I love back together, right? As I was injured a few years ago and had nothing to do but sit on the couch all day and watch as the political climate declined further and further into madness. And there seems to be this huge swath, this huge divide in the nation where everybody's at each other's throats. It's very tribal. My goal is to try to bring us all back together and ground us in something real, something that we can all agree is common to all of us. And I promise we have more similarities than we have differences. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce my friend Christian Martin again, and he's going to talk to you a little bit about his philosophy, what interests him, and we'll go from there.
Yeah.
Welcome
So thank you. So obviously, I would like to be judged not based on labels, but I know in 2024 people will see my salient attributes as a tall, devastatingly good-looking white man, right? And will hence want to discount my my experience, my opinions, as not valid because they're not marginal, they're too mainstream. Which is why I think, coming from common mansplaining, the idea that white men such as myself have all the power. We are not elites, and the amount of melanin in our skin does not make us elites.
Not even close.
Right? So, what I talk about, I have a good college education and a love of history, and I'm a voracious reader. But I like to address issues, content, events, from a moral perspective. My concern for the country is what I see as a moral decline. I've been much more interested in how a common morality was something that made America great. America was great because we were good. We've become very wealthy and we're very strong, and that's allowed greater and greater numbers of people to be antisocial and to stray from the public morality. And that we've been able to sustain it. But now we've reached a tipping point where the people that have been sustaining that public morality are almost being mocked, ridiculed for it, oppressed, and the people that we could tolerate, those who were rejecting or the common morality, are now being emphasized as our examples, and when too many people follow that example, society falls apart. An example you might, in the common, might be known to you, is an episode of The Simpsons where a self-help guru comes to town. Bart Simpson makes a funny comment during his sort of TED talk, and he asks Bart to come up there and says, "Bart, that was really funny." He says, "Tell me your philosophy." And Bart says his philosophy in life is, "I do what I want." And he tells everybody in the audience to be like Bart. The simple childhood joy. And what happens? The town breaks down, ceases to function as a town, right? There are 50 people standing on the bridge spitting on cars as they drive by, Nobody is doing the responsible thing, somewhat unpleasant and irresponsible things. They're all just goofing off. And what I found is having one likable rapscallion like Bart Simpson the town could handle that when everybody else was being responsible. But when everybody acts like that, society falls apart. And so the issues, the moral issues, specifically moral decline, is something that a frame of reference that I like to examine and come about when we examine or react to any issues. I'm particularly opposed to postmodernism, which I think is pervasive in its influence. And as I would define, or as Google maybe defines, so we have a common reference for what I'm talking about in postmodernism for those of you, so it's not just word salad. What is postmodernism, Kat?
What is the main idea of postmodernism? As a philosophy, postmodernism rejects concepts of rationality, objectivity, and universal truth.
So postmodernism, I believe that there are absolute truths. My frame of reference, I was raised in a home, a Christian home, Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and that religious worldview does shape my approach to topics and my worldview. I'll be salient about that. And then I did attend public schools for elementary, middle, and high school, and so that's my educational background. But what we're going to react to is my frame of reference is my concern is how postmodernism or the ideas are seeping in and into our policies, into our government, in a way that are decaying our moral foundation to a degree that we can't sustain like we could in the past, and are leading to the instabilities that we feel now. I feel sometimes people, when they talk about the good old days, it's maybe a time before postmodernism, or just a time when people were more honest, right? When people weren't as worried about scams, weren't as skeptical about everything. I think 2024, everybody's skeptical about any idea they hear. Anything we say is we expect you to treat with skepticism. That's just what people do when they receive information for the first time. But we hope that you'll think about it. We'd love to hear your comments and reactions to our ideas as we put them out there, and our reactions, so that we can deepen that understanding together.
Absolutely, and as he mentioned, he's got his interesting background. It's not an elite background. I've got my own non-elite background, and it's not the same as his. And one of the elements that I hope to bring to this channel with the new host is to be able to bounce ideas off of each other from different backgrounds. We're not going to agree on everything, but we will be able to see events as they occur in real time, and then react to those and give our own little mansplain spin on it.
Yeah, I think Eddie and I both have a tendency to be more moderate and more open to reconciliation between extremes, to a point.
Yeah.
But the end.
As long as it doesn't violate our principle.
Yeah, and I do also think there's a time and a place for liberal policy. I generally tend to think that should be at the local level. But the more local, the better. Local, county, possibly state. Very rarely the federal government.
Yeah, 10th Amendment is a real amendment.
I think at the federal government should be a very light touch. That might be a little libertarian, but rather than just defining by those labels, that's my general approach on the topic. But we're going to approach each topic for what it is, and not try to be knee-jerk and just approach it from a way that has to defend our positions of before, and try to see if the whatever policy is being advocated for is something that we buy or something we don't buy.
All right, I'm excited.
Yep.
Ready to roll?